Here with us is Robert Greenway, the architect of the Abraham Accords. Robert, this is so big. I've been smiling all day long. And this is just crossing the wires. The U.S. is sending about 200 troops to Israel to support and monitor Gaza. Is that a good move?
Well, it's great to be with you, and thanks for having me. And like you and many others, I've been smiling at the news since it was announced. Look, we don't know the details yet of what an international peacekeeping or observing force would do, what a U.S. role would be. It's not a surprise that the U.S. would put additional assets on the ground to ensure that the transition of remains and hostages takes place. And so until I think we know the details of what they'll be doing, I think we can side with the president and cast on his judgment and recognize that it's unlikely they'll be on the ground in Gaza, but supporting rather an international effort.
Robert, a lot of people say that phase two with rebuilding and figuring out who's going to run Gaza is going to be much more complex. Nevertheless, Hamas has no leverage now with the hostages being released. That was the sword they were hanging over everyone and everything. So in the end, phase two, how do you perceive it's going to go?
Well, you're right in a sense. Some of the most difficult things will follow the transfer, but the loss of leverage, the gathering of an international community to support the deal really forced Hamas's hand and allowed this to happen. President Trump and the team deserve all the credit, of course. The next few steps after the transfer will be among the most difficult. Look, we haven't seen it happen in Lebanon, where technocrats were supposed to take charge of the government there, and Hezbollah has not yet surrendered control. I don't know that the same will happen here, but having the hostages return and losing that leverage then opens up a broad vista of accountability mechanisms that could be in place if they fail to make that transition. And of course, reconstruction can't occur unless technocrats come in and some form of security is established.
Now, Robert, I've heard on social media conservatives complaining that this is Trump's nation-building exercise. Why is that not correct?
Well, I think we've seen him rail against that since his campaign in 2016 and ever since. We have years to evaluate what he's done abroad, and in no sense of the word has he involved us in, supported, or expanded nation building. Exactly the opposite. So I think it would be inconsistent with his statement and his actions, and I think we all know that that's not the case here. Look, he's the president that's introduced peace and ended conflict, 8 according to his account, and it's a remarkable achievement. We haven't seen any nation building, and I don't think there's any evidence of it to occur in Gaza.
Now, Robert, you worked with Jared Kushner tirelessly on the Abraham Accords. No one thought that was possible, by the way, and you all pulled that off. Explain how that experience that he had with you and working side by side with you helped him and Witkoff together on this jaunt across the Middle East, and also working with Turkey, Indonesia. The president gave all of them credit today. How important was that initial experience?
Well, look, it was a privilege for me to watch Jared and the president and other members of the team in action. And I learned a tremendous amount watching him and the president see clearly what others could not. They listened to all opinions. They evaluated judgments, but they prized facts first and foremost. And so they saw the reality shifting on the ground, and they were able to implement and chart a path through it. That led to the brokering of the Abraham Accords, and Jared was principal in executing that and the president's direction. And so now I think what we're seeing is exactly the same. We're building on the foundations that they built, and we're using the relationships that all of them have nurtured over the last few decades, and now it's bearing fruit. And I think now we'll also see an expansion of the Accords.
Robert, yes or no, will he get the Nobel Prize, or will the committee do what the committee does and keep hating Trump?
It's a great question. I'm beginning to think the Nobel Prize is an insult, but if it's not, he certainly deserved it the first term. He's more than deserved it now.
All right, Robert, great to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.